thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. He is an MBA, CFP, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, none other than Mr. Jamie Lima.
Hey man,
Welcome.
thanks for having me.
Welcome, Mr. Jamie. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, no, you basically covered it. Yeah, so I am the founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions. I've been doing this work for many years now, and we help people with all of the financial aspects of divorce. So, divorce can be complicated, divorce can be stressful, and we work with our clients to help them navigate that stress and make some good financial decisions along the way as they're going through this unfortunate experience.
Surviving divorce financially. That will be our topic for today, Mr. Jamie. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. When the
Appreciate it.
decision, oh yes, when the decision to divorce is made, what are the 3 to 5 most critical financial actions a person should take immediately to protect themselves even before lawyers are fully involved?
I think great question. I think there's probably 3 to 5 really good ones. The first one is really just trying to establish your own financial identity. So there's a lot of people that go into this and they've never had any financial experience or wherewithal in their own personal situation. And what we find is usually there's one decision maker in the family. And if that is not you and you're going through a divorce, you need to be establishing your own financial identity. And that means setting up your own accounts, getting access to your financial records, opening up credit cards and rebuilding your credit and all of those things before you lead in to making the decision of getting a divorce. Because when the dust settles, if you're trying to do it at that point, it can be a problem. I think the second biggest thing is to is and I'm biased, of course, but I've seen this thousands of times over and over, is to sit with somebody and just to get an understanding of what is at risk in the divorce. We have a lot of people that come to us when they're 6 months into it or a year into it, and then they want the help. If had they sat with us before deciding to get a divorce, we could have learned about their situation, get an understanding of all their financials, help them establish some goals of what's going to happen after the divorce, and really give them a sense of like what is this all going to look like when all is said and done, and what is at risk. And I think the third doesn't relate to money, but it's incredibly important. You need to create or and surround yourself with what I call Team You, and that's your loved ones, your family members, people that you can count on through this process. And of course, you need your attorney. Well, I shouldn't say of course, but in most cases, we need to bring attorneys in, and we need to bring the financial folks in. But you also need to have your other support system in place because it could get challenging and it's stressful, it's emotional, and all the things. And if you have that resource that you can leverage, it'll make the process go a lot smoother.
Mr. Jeremy, how does someone differentiate between what feels like a financial emergency and what is true financial emergency during emotional turmoil of a divorce?
Well, I mean, I think if you have to look at the level of risk that you're associated with, right? In everything feels like an emergency when you're going through a divorce, but you have to really just try to take a step back and get an understanding of okay, like if do I have to make this decision in this very moment? Do I have to take action in this very moment? And a lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times what we used to do is just say, all right, I know I have a decision to make. I'm going to get a good night's sleep and revisit it tomorrow. And then sometimes just taking that little bit of a pause will help you distinguish between, okay, like this is a fire I need to put out, or it really wasn't that, it wasn't that I had to make a decision like right in the here and now. I put it on the back burner. It's just going to, let's just see how this thing all shakes out. So I think unfortunately, everything feels like an emergency when you're going through divorce. But if you can just take that beat, it'll uh, you'll get a better sense of what really is a fire you need to put out, or something you can postpone.
You frame it as surviving. How can someone shift their mindset for one of fear and loss to one of the empowerment and rebuilding when it comes to their finances?
Well, I mean, when you go through a divorce, if there's something to be said about getting new momentum. And I think this is real in other aspects of our lives, and certainly in other traditional wealth management, retirement planning situations. But if you can just take one step forward and one action towards whatever goal and objective you have, even if you just do that one time a day or one time a week, just having seeing that you're making progress towards something, I think goes a long way into actually quote unquote surviving uh, the challenges that come away with divorce. It may seem so simple, but so many times when I'm watching people go through a divorce, they either try to tackle everything all at once, or they push decisions that they need to be making down the line, saying that they're going to get to them at one point, or they're going to, they'll feel differently about something, and it just by just taking one small step every day can just help you build the momentum you need, and it'll make it, I've seen it make people feel better because they're able to see the progress that they're making.
What does a comprehensive financial inventory look like, and what is the most
Mm.
commonly overlooked assets or liabilities people forget to account for, Mr.
In
Jamie?
in in divorce, there's four key elements. Okay, there's income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. What you have coming in, what you have going out, what you own, and what you owe. And if you can get a good handle on all of those things and you can inventory them, I mean, we have resources on our website. I'm sure there's other resources that are out there, but you can use a simple Excel spreadsheet and document what you have, and that's going to be a huge way of you being able just to get an understanding of what you have and what's at stake in the divorce. A lot of times, people will overlook some things that they're not so small, but they're kind of small in our, or maybe they're so small that we just don't pay. They exist. We just don't pay attention to them. So we had a case recently where there were 10 million American Express points that were forgotten about in a
Mm.
divorce. And these all stemmed from the businesses were, they were racking up expenses on the business cards, and then they over the years they've accumulated all these American Express points. Well, if you look at the value of those American Express points, we were talking about $500,000 in value that was simply forgotten because they forget about those types of points. So fringe benefits and membership benefits and membership points and airline miles, all of those things, they have real value, but people overlook.
So, how would you claim those forgetful points, Mr. Jamie?
Well, and if you're working with an attorney, you're working with a financial planner like ourselves, we're going to have you fill out some affidavits, or we're going to help you fill out these financial affidavits. Anytime you communicate with the courts, anytime you go to a mediation session, or anytime you file documents with the courts or have a hearing, they're going to ask you for updated financial affidavits. In every state, they're called something differently, which is a shame, but that's effectively what they are. They're basically you're verifying that you own these things, or you owe money on these credit cards or whatever it is, and this is how much money you have coming in, this is how much money you have going out, and you have to verify that before you communicate with the courts. As we're helping clients go through that, we're asking questions like, okay, well, you have an American Airlines card. How many points are on that card? If you have an American Express card or a Chase card or whatever, pick your credit card. Most of those, most of the credit cards these days have some kind of reward baked in. So anytime we see credit cards listed, or we're working with executives of companies, we're going to ask about fringe benefits, and we're also going to ask about points.
Indeed, as for the points, for sure. So, what are the key documents that someone must secure copies of, and what is the best way to obtain them in relation or strain?
In a lot of the cases that we work, there's some financial abuse that's going on, which means that one party doesn't have access to those types of records. We see this all the time. The easiest way to gain access to some of that stuff is to start doing it well in advance of you considering, or at least telling your soon-to-be ex-spouse that you want a divorce. I tell everybody all the time: set up a Google Drive or a OneDrive or whatever Apple has. Set up a place where you can store these documents. And as you see your your telephone bill comes in, or your electric bill, and all the financial stuff, you start saving that one piece at a time, because what we're going to need is we're going to need tax returns, we're going to need your pay stubs, we're going to need any of the documents related to the benefits that you have at work, 401k plans, 403b plans, deferred compensation, pension plans. All that stuff we're going to need access to, along with your credit card statements, your bank records, your brokerage records. If you have an IRA or a Roth IRA, we need all those statements as well. Those are the key items that we're going to need to start building a case file for you and helping you think through strategy. So but a lot of times it's very difficult to get that all in one sitting. If you can do so over time, nice and slowly, and it'll make it less cumbersome and overwhelming, but you will also have everything you need at the ready to share with folks like us when the time comes.
Interesting advice, Mr. Jamie. For sure, our listener or our people watching right now, they will empower or what the tips that you sharing to us. What are the subtle red flags that might suggest a spouse is hiding income or assets, and what steps can be taken to investigate?
It's very difficult sometimes, but we see it a lot. If somebody is hiding money in a divorce, the easiest way for them to do that is by way of their paycheck. So you can set up a direct deposit going into your bank account from payroll, but you can also set up multiple bank accounts. So we have a lot of people that we've gone through this experience with them, and we're looking at the spouse's records, and we see 75 or 80% of the money goes into one account, and 25% goes into another account that nobody knows about. So, and that's a way to slowly, and in some respects, if you have to do that because there is abuse involved, that'd be a good way to help create your own financial identity too. But those are the things that we're looking for. You're looking for money movement scenarios where maybe you're expecting money to go into one account and you don't see it, or you see money go into an account and then immediately move to a different account. That happens all the time, and we'll eventually uncover it, because that's the work. That's the type of work we do, and it's called asset tracing, and we can do that work relatively quickly these days, especially with the leveraging AI and technology. But those are the red flags. I think if you start seeing some unusual money movement, you want to start documenting it.
Documentation is the number one key to success for divorce, for
Sure
sure.
is.
How can someone
Document. Yeah.
documents? Yeah, how can someone quickly but accurately create a new, really realistic monthly budget based on a simple income or in a single income, especially when facing a new expenses like legal fees and separate housing?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you have to. Unfortunately, it's the one thing that they talk about a lot, but they don't necessarily teach you how to do in school. So you need to you need to sit down. You need to get a realistic sense of what's coming in and what's going out. And by taking the steps that I mentioned earlier, where you're looking at the electric bill as it comes in, or the cell phone bill, or your insurance cost, you have to factor all those things in. So I would just be taking a running tab of what's with the approximate value. We usually want to look at an average of the last 12 months, what those expenses are. And realistically and ideally, I shouldn't say realistically because it's not realistic for a lot of people, but ideally, We want to have at least 3 months of those expenses covered by having a safety net, right? Like having money in savings account that can cover those expenses for 3 months, including, like you mentioned, the attorney fees, because they can rack up. So it's not rocket science, but it is time consuming. And there's a lot of worksheets out there. We have some on our website too, where you can go in and get some of these free resources and download a budget worksheet. And you also want to make sure that you're doing your best in anticipating what your estimated future expenses are going to be. Because when we go to court and we talk to the attorney, or we talk to the judge about maximizing the amount of support you're going to receive, if you're going to be the one receiving support, we don't care what your cell phone or your insurance costs were 6 months ago. We want to paint a picture to the judge and say, like, listen, I'm going to have to have a new insurance plan, or I'm going to be in a new house, and this is what it's going to cost, and really be able to paint a realistic picture of what that looks like, so you can maximize your support.
Mr. Jamie, on empowerment and the future, many people, often women, have let their spouse handle the finances. What are the
Mm-hmm.
best resources for quickly getting up to speed on investing, debt management, as well as financial planning?
You use the perfect word. The perfect word is resources. I tell people all the time that using your resources is going to be one of the best tools you can use in divorce. You have your financial people, you have your attorneys, we have a ton of free resources on our website. We've even created a some calculators that people can use to get a sense of to actually put that budget together and get a sense of what alimony, child support, and their actual budget looks like. They can find go to toolkit.securesplit.com, and they can get access to those resources for free. So you have to use your resources. You can't sit back and expect to do nothing and make it through the divorce with your financial life intact. It's just not how it works. You have to take action. And if you're not the one that's involved in the financial conversations with your spouse right now, and you're not even contemplating divorce, you should be involved in those conversations with your financial folks. Because if something happens to your soon-to-be your spouse, whether it's through divorce or maybe even an illness or whatever, you have to be able to step in and understand what's going on, so you can carry that torch. And a lot of people don't do it. So I would say use your resources and involve yourself in those conversations, and you're going to be in a much better spot than most people.
Mr. Jamie, what is the role of financial advisor or certified divorce financial analyst like yours versus an attorney? How can this team help someone make
Mm.
smarter, less emotional decisions?
Well, somebody used the analogy one time, and I think it's a great one. It might be a little silly, but I think it's still a great one. It's like, you don't take your kid to the pediatrician to get their teeth cleaned, right? So
Yes.
you want to use your if and if you had a major illness that your family practitioner um, pointed out to you, God forbid it be cancer or what have you, you would go to an oncologist, not to the family doctor, to be able to get the care you need. So why are we using attorneys who are legal experts to navigate the financials? It doesn't really make any sense. So, but using them in combination is kind of the holy grail. And I've seen, and people might think, well, I don't have the money for it, or it doesn't make any sense to hire two people to do this work. But the reality is that if you have the attorney staying in their lane, helping you on the legal side of things, and we stay in our lane and help on the financial, bringing those areas of expertise together can save you money and have you a more favorable outcome.
Interesting, Mr. Jamie. Can you share an example of someone who not only survived financially but emerged from their divorce in a stronger, more secure financial position than before?
I have a great example, and she just came to mind earlier today, as a matter of fact. So because I'm wondering where she is now, but we had a gal that came to us who lived in Tennessee and lives in Tennessee. A couple kids, divorcing the spouse, and there was a lot at stake here. There was a pretty sizable property, and there was an Airbnb on the property, and so on. And when we first got into it, we were looking at the assets that they have and trying to sort out like who's going to get what. And she really wanted to keep the house, but unfortunately, the spouse wanted to live in the Airbnb on the same property, which is like 300 feet away from the house. So that was a no go. And we simply just said, like, well, maybe we'll just sell the house and everybody can move on. Well, as we were having more conversations with them, and we actually learned more about the business that the husband runs, he does tough shed deliveries. So when you have those sheds that are pre-built, and then they put them on a truck and then they deliver them to somebody's home, in their backyard, he runs that service. Well, we started to look at it, and realize that this is an actual business. This is a real valuable business. And his argument was, well, it's just me. I'm the only employee, and with a couple, maybe a couple administrative people. So if something happens to me, there's no value in this business. Well, it turns out we ended up getting a business valuation done on that business, and it was like $3.5 million. So they were going to ultimately sell the property, split the proceeds, walk away, and there were maybe a couple smaller assets that were involved that they were just going to split. It was relatively seamless to getting a business valuation, and now we have a $3+ million asset that is up for grabs in this divorce. And when all was said and done, he bought her out of the business. She had significantly more cash. They ultimately did decide to sell the house, and she just bought another one cash. And now she's because and she might not have been able to do that had she gone with the original plan. But as we started to get deeper into it, to learn more about the situation and start to uncover some things, I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, it's a $5,000 investment turned into a $1.5 million cash influx to her. That's a big win.
Definitely a big win, Mr. Jamie. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101 Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Jamie, if you could give only one piece of financial advice to someone beginning this journey, what would it be?
I would go back to what I said earlier in taking some time to get an understanding of what's at risk by working with someone like ourselves. And secondarily, to kind of tie it all together, do not let your attorney handle all of the financial aspects in the divorce. They're not trained for it. They're not educated for it. I've worked with dozens of attorneys, and I have attorneys who are friends that I've worked with on their own wealth management needs. And I can tell you that a lot of them can't even manage their own money, let alone tell you what to do with yours.
Mr. Jamie Lima, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So, where do people can reach you?
I think the easiest place is to go to the website that you're showing right now, allegiantds.com. You can book a complimentary and confidential conversation with us to sort things out, and we'll be able to give you some guidance as far as what's the next best step. So, website's the easiest.
Definitely the website itself. So, what do you think the separation of Ben Affleck and JLo? Is it
Oh,
a difficult thing to?
I think it's I don't think anything of it, frankly. But they seem to have had it all worked out. It sounds like If they were smart, there would be a prenuptial agreement involved. That's another thing that people miss all the time is getting into marriage and not having a prenup. But yeah, I mean, I think it's all pretty well straightforward. I'm going to venture to guess that they've kept things pretty well separate, so it should be a clean break.
Clean break indeed. So, Mr. Jamie, thank you so much for your time and looking forward for another episode. Yes, people, let's support Mr. Jamie Lima because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering business to come. So, Mr. Jamie, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.